What's up, guys? I'm back. The reason I'm here is because it's happening. Star Wars 7, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, is coming to this town, Gothenburg, Sweden, tomorrow. And we booked tickets about a month ago, or in October sometime, when they dropped, basically. And we are going to go see it tomorrow at 10 a.m., the first showing here in this city. And we're getting it on the 16th. The 16th tomorrow, that's a Wednesday. So this video today is being shot on Tuesday, December 15th. So it's rather time sensitive. And I'm crazy, and I'm excited, and I'm acting really stupid right now. I'm fucking going nuts. I woke up today, it's the day before the movie comes out, and it is so quiet as it usually is in Gothenburg. And I'm feeling like there should be parades out on the street. There should be the Imperial March playing all the time. There should be people doing Darth Maul-like backflips and lightsaber duels all over the street, and none of that is happening. And I feel like if I was back home in New York, that would be happening absolutely everywhere. But in New York, they're not getting it until, what is it? Is it Friday? The 18th, right? So I'm getting to see this 2 days before they do back home. So it's sort of worth it. I get to see it earlier than people back at home. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody else back there. This is not going to be spoiler. I'm going to be putting up a video tomorrow with reactions, non-spoilery reactions of the movie. I'm going to shoot a little bit of video before we even get into the cinema. And then I'll let you guys know what I thought of it. So if you're watching this, tune in tomorrow, the 16th, Wednesday, 16th of December, and you'll find out what a true fucking geek thinks of the movie. It's the day before the biggest movie of my life is dropping. I have been a Star Wars fan almost since I was born. I was born in '77, which is the year that Star Wars came out. And I grew up with Star Wars, and Star Wars faded away for a while. And then we got the prequel trilogy, which we're not going to get into here. And there has been Star Wars-ish stuff going on for a while. But I never, ever, ever in my life thought that I would see the return of Luke Skywalker to the big screen. Let alone Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, Harrison Ford as Han Solo, and hopefully a cameo by Lando Calrissian. Harrison Calrissian, that's a name. So I'm fucking blown away and excited about what's gonna happen tomorrow. The movie looks, for the most part, fantastic. But I'm trying to sort of keep myself in check. Be a realist about this. The movie's probably not going to be as good as the original trilogy. That's why I decided to make a video the day before I watched the movie. Because there's going to be a time, this is sort of the final day before we know whether or not this Star Wars is going to continue the tradition for the rest of forever. And my great-grandchildren will be watching Star Wars movies. This is the day before we find out whether that happened or not. And I'm talking about us fans. I'm not talking about the media guys, or the Jimmy Kimmels, or Jimmy Fallons, or Jimmy whatevers of the world, who all got to see this a while ago, and are all in that sort of marketing world. I'm talking about us fans and our reaction to it, and our anticipation for it. And for me, at least here in this city, right now, this is the last day before we find out, is this going to be another Phantom Menace? Or is this going to be another Empire Strikes Back? So, here are some observations. Here are some points. I want to put these down so I can watch them, and maybe my grandkids can watch them and be like, where were you the day before Star Wars 7 happened? So, I'm going to look back on this, and I'm probably going to laugh at what I'm expecting to happen in the movies tomorrow. But I don't care. So here are some of the things that I think might happen, or I have expectations of happening in the new Star Wars movie. So, this is not a top 10 list. Let's just talk. Me and you, we're simpatico. We can talk. I'm starting with a little bit of a downer. I do not expect this movie to live up to the original trilogy. Not even Return of the Jedi, which is considered the weakest of the trilogy. But that's the one I grew up. That's the only movie I actually saw of the original trilogy in the cinema. That is not a weak movie in my eye whatsoever. Not as good as Empire, but still not a weak movie. I still don't think it's going to be as good as Return of the Jedi. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to be a great movie. It's not going to be a lot of fun. What I'm saying is, there is no way you can go back and bottle lightning twice. There's a lot of nostalgia involved in these movies. The style of cinema, the cinematography, the shots, everything from back in the 80s is completely different now. They're shooting it on film. They've shot this new movie, Star Wars 7, on film. But it's just not going to be the same movie. This is a movie for a new generation who's used to new filmmaking techniques. And because of that, I expect to feel a little jarred. I expect to feel a little uncomfortable with some of the shot placement and some of the color correction that they might have done with sort of magenta and cyan color work that you usually see in J.J. Abrams movies. And I think that visually it's not going to be as traditional. But that's okay. I'm expecting to have a new experience with this movie. And it's a Star Wars movie for a new generation. I'm good with that. I'm good with, kids getting to experience a new Star Wars movie. And they get to have their own Star Wars in their generation. And for that, I'll be very happy. But for me, as a longtime fan, it's going to be jarring. The other thing is, J.J. Abrams. There will be lens flares. Guarantee you there's going to be lens flares. And even though I didn't see many in the trailer, they're going to be in there. That's his sort of style. And there's going to be that stupid tilting camera thing that he does. He did a lot in Star Trek, People are running and suddenly the camera starts doing this, rotating. And there's going to be a lot of that fancy camera trickery. And that sort of like whiplash-inducing, CG shots. And you already saw in the trailer where the Millennium Falcon is flying through the downed Star Destroyer on Jakku. You see that roller coaster cinematography, and that everybody loves in CG. So I'm expecting to see that kind of stuff. Storytelling-wise, I think that the story is going to be told in a very modernistic way. I expect this to be a very rapid-fire movie. I think it's going to be 2 hours and 30 minutes of, I don't think it's going to be as breakneck speed as the first Star Trek movie that he did. I think it's going to be a bit toned down and take its time a little bit more with the story, like Abrams did with Into Darkness. Like I said, I think it's going to be very breakneck regardless. I think it's going to hit the ground running. There aren't going to be very soft moments. I think it's going to be mostly action. And I think there literally will be a lot of running because J.J. Abrams just likes shooting people running, on camera. There's always people running towards the camera, away from the camera, across the camera. There's people running fucking everywhere. So we're going to see a lot of people running in these movies. It's J.J. Abrams. He can't help himself. He has styles, guys. He has what you call a visual language. It's how he does things. When you hear J.J. Abrams, you kind of know what to expect from him. And that's how this movie is going to be told. It's going to be very rapid fire. There's going to be very few moments where the characters can catch their breath. There's that scene in the Millennium Falcon where Han Solo is saying it's all true, all of it, about the Jedi and the dark side. There's going to be little sort of highlight moments like that. But as far as character building, I think we're basically going to get our characterization up front and then just sort of action. I don't think there's going to be very many surprises. I don't think that there's going to be an I am your father moment in this movie because they would probably wait for that for the second movie like they did with the original trilogy. Just for posterity, or just there's just too much that's going to be going on in this movie as far as introducing a new audience to the Star Wars franchise, as far as bringing in old fogies like me and reassuring us that these are actual Star Wars movies. There's positive things about the original trilogy, but they totally did not feel anything like Star Wars. And I expect this movie to feel more like Star Wars, a more modern take on Star Wars than the prequel trilogy did. So I don't think that they're going to hit any major story points in this movie. They're going to be asking questions. They're going to be introducing concepts that will get carried forth in the movies and the subsequent chapters, and which include I'm including the Star Wars stories to the Han Solo story and everything, which are going to elaborate on ideas that are introduced in this movie. I'm also expecting there's going to be a lot of tie-ins with Star Wars Rebels, the animated show. If you haven't seen that in preparation for this movie, I don't know what you're doing, because it's like studying for a test, really. Star Wars Rebels has a lot of stuff in it visually that you can already see in the trailer. You have the shot of the Ghost going through hyperspace. A lot of ships actually going through hyperspace, and you have an external shot of that as opposed to just the cockpit forward view of going into hyperspace. You have a lot of the same sort of color work that you see in the trailer. A lot of that. How do I put it? A lot of the Ralph McQuarrie-esque designs. They're there obviously because it takes place between episodes 3 and 4, so they're trying to link those. But you see the same sort of take on the McQuarrie style as in episode 7. You see that in Rebels. So visually, there's a lot of cues. You're sort of being indoctrinated into the new world that Abrams and company have created for this new Star Wars chapter. It's getting you ready. The show Rebels gets you ready to see this movie and then the subsequent films. There are going to be tie-ins there. I doubt very much is going to be any reference to Kanan. If you don't watch that show, he is the sort of the last remaining Jedi. We haven't seen Obi-Wan Kenobi out there. We saw a hologram of him, the older Obi-Wan Kenobi on the TV show. But Kanan is sort of a Padawan who grew up without a master, and now he's taken on this new kid who's force sensitive and taken him on hesitantly, actually, as his Padawan learner. And he's trying to continue the tradition of the Jedi. And it shows you the rise of the rebellion. I don't think that we're going to see Kanan specifically in this show, or Ezra, who is his apprentice in this movie. I think that they might be references to the show. I don't think they're going to get as specific as showing as Kanan or an older Ezra. It would be the show takes place 14 years after episode 3, so he's roughly 14 years old, which would make him about Luke Skywalker's age at this point in the Star Wars universe. So it's possible, but my feeling is that they're not going to directly tie the shows. Other than, here's the other observation, I think that the Knights of Ren in episode 7 are the Inquisitors from Rebels, or at least they're a branch of the Inquisitors. I think that concept has been introduced, the idea that there's a hierarchy we didn't know anything about within the Sith universe, that the Inquisitors are there as subservient, almost lapdogs, enforcers, if you will, to the Sith Lords. So now you have your Sith Lords, you have your master, you have your apprentice Sith Lord, and now you have your Sith Inquisitors, and now you have the Knights of Ren running around. Who are they? My concept is that the Inquisitors, after the death of the Emperor, had these orders to seek out a replacement Sith Lord. Either it would come from within their own ranks, or somewhere out there they would find someone who is capable of taking on the mantle, becoming the new Sith Lord. So I think that this is prediction stuff. I will probably be proven wrong, and I actually kind of hope that I am proven wrong, because if I'm wrong, it means that it's all new to me. I'll just be sitting there in the audience. I don't want to be sitting in the audience going, I thought so, I thought so, I thought so. I don't want to have predicted everything. I really want to be wrong on a lot of these things. But my impression, what I think might be happening is, I think that Supreme Leader Snoke is an Inquisitor from the old days. He's been tasked with finding a new Grand Sith Lord, if you will, an Emperor type. And he's called Supreme Leader Snoke because he's a Supreme Leader of the Knights of Ren, not the Supreme Leader necessarily of the New Order. I think that they're two factions who have come together for mutual advantage, but they don't necessarily, rank-wise, they don't necessarily intermingle. Kind of like Darth Vader commanded the Imperial Army, but he didn't have a rank such as general or admiral or anything like that. The military aspect of it was separate from the the force sensitive aspect of that empire. So I think something similar is going on here. I think Supreme Leader Snoke is using the New Order just as the Emperor did in order to enforce their will upon the universe, the galaxy. But I don't think that he has a military rank. I think that the Supreme Leader Snoke title comes from being the leader of the Knights of Ren, and that they're all Inquisitors. There's not much to say more about that. Watch the show. They've had one Inquisitor. I won't give any spoilers about what happens with him, and now they've introduced two more Inquisitors, which leads you to believe that there's basically a whole army of these Force-sensitive Inquisitors out there who are endlessly loyal to the Sith Lords, whoever they might be. So that's who I think the Knights of Ren are going to be. I think we're going to see that Kylo Ren is a much more conflicted character than we think him to be. I think it might even get to the point where there's going to be memes about how whiny he is at certain points. You know, I was going to go to Tasha Station to pick up some power converters. I think there's probably going to be a whiny line like that coming from Kylo Ren. And it's going to serve a purpose. It's going to make us realize this guy kind of isn't really in control. He's got swept up in the dark side. He's trying to do what he thinks is right, but he's not really. He's beginning to think that maybe it's not what's right. He's a kid. I think they're going to be playing with elements of he's still a kid. He's going to screw up. We're going to watch him screw up. We're going to see him make mistakes that Darth Vader never would have. And we're going to see him have shit-fit, frowny-face moments like Anakin did. That's what I really think is going to happen with him. I think he's not a fully formed person, and he's being guided by emotion. And I think that he's looking for guidance outside of that emotion so that he can figure out how to be a man. I think Kylo, I really hope that they don't kill him off in this movie. But I think Kylo is going to go through an arc in these movies. He's going to probably come to the light side or a gray side, like sort of Mace Windu was said that he sort of played with the dark side a little bit too. And, to gain a bit more power, but managed to control it. I think we're going to see a little bit of Kylo Ren's softer and more whiny side in this movie, and in the next movies we'll see him become a more humanistic character. We're going to see sort of the reverse of Luke Skywalker, whereas Skywalker was a whiny brat, really likable kid, but a kid. And then by the end, a Jedi, he is a grown man, and we're going to see Kylo going through that in reverse. He's going to be this really dangerous, almost like rebel without a cause type, James Dean type, who's just doing things to screw up the galaxy, screw things up for the people who love him just because he's rebelling. And then he's going to start seeing the consequences of his actions once he meets these other characters, and it's going to start coming back. It'll be interesting to see, are we going to see him use his lightsaber against living creatures? In the prequel trilogy, they fought the Jedi's fought against the droid army. You ever wonder why? Lopping people's heads off and body parts is pretty bloody work, and these are movies for kids. The scene where you see Anakin lopping off the head of the Tusken Raiders outside of the tent where his mother was held captive, that was freaking shocking. There weren't really moments like that. You saw Darth Vader in the original trilogy force choking people, but that's about as violent as it got. He strangled somebody. There was no blood. There was no cleaving someone in two. There is a shot of Kylo Ren in the trailer. Excuse me. There's a shot of Kylo Ren in the trailer where he's swinging down at somebody, and it looks like it's on Jakku, and everything behind him is on fire, and you guys know the shot where he just does this thing. And is that directed towards a living person? I'm going to guess no, because if they do that, it's going to be really, really tough on kids to watch that sort of thing. Or they might cut away. But I don't think they want to give kids nightmares, and I hope that they don't go to that level of sort of like vulgarity, because Star Wars never really has been about the graphic aspects of violence, other than people getting shot by lasers and stuff like that. But that's more fantastic, Somebody getting cleaved in half with a lightsaber, a sword for all intents and purposes, is tons more shocking a thing. So it makes me wonder if they'll go to that level. I don't think they will. they might want to shock the audience in that respect. We saw that shocking violence used to great effect in episode 1, where Qui-Gon Jinn gets stabbed, through the midriff by Darth Maul. And then, of course, we see Darth Maul getting cleaved in half. So we know that they can take it to that level. I just hope that they don't, because in the original trilogy, they never really relied on that sort of thing. You saw what lightsabers could do with Luke's hand getting chopped off, but it never got to the point where somebody's head was cut off. It wasn't used excessively. And now I think of it, maybe in the prequel trilogy, it was used excessively. But I hope they don't do that with this one. I hope they... I really don't know. I don't want to see too much violence with lightsabers. That's just me. Maybe I'm getting too old. But the point of that whole thing is, can a character go so far as to destroy, kill people, cleave them in half with their lightsaber, impale them, burn them, do all these crazy things? Now that I'm thinking about it, wow, there really is a lot of visual and graphic violence in the original Star Wars trilogy. It's funny, you just get so used to it. But yeah, now Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, they're flaming skeletons. When Luke finds them. That's pretty fucking graphic. So it's funny how I didn't perceive... I've seen the movies so many times I didn't perceive it really as violence anymore. I just saw it as part of the storytelling. But yeah, I guess if you're a kid, when I think of it, it was pretty shocking to see the skeletons. I don't think it even registered to me when I first saw it when I was 5 years old that those were skeletons. I thought it was just a smoldering pile. Anyway, moving on. I wonder if they're going to arc Kylo Ren so that he comes back to the light side and has to live with the consequences of what he's done, with people not trusting him, with him having to be haunted by essentially the ghosts of the people he's slain. That's something that Vader never had to deal with. He was spared because he died off. And I think Anakin, could not have lived with himself with everything that he's done. He essentially killed Padme. He killed Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru. Hundreds, I think, of thousands of people have died at the hand of Vader. He can't possibly just go back and pretend that he's a normal guy anymore. So I wonder if they'll do that with Kylo Ren. That's my main thing. I really wonder how far they're going to take this characterization. But again, like I said, I doubt there's going to be tons of characterization in this movie. I think that there's going to be enough characterization where we get attached to everybody, but it's going to be somewhat on the level of the original trilogy, because those were more about presenting archetypes. The Joseph Campbell hero with 1,000 faces. We've heard about that so many times. When anybody tries to intellectualize Star Wars, we hear them mention Joseph Campbell. But they really were archetypes. Han Solo was the cowboy. The only one who wasn't entirely archetypical was Princess Leia, who was a princess, but she was not princessly at all. She's the type of princess who probably could have rescued herself. And we see that, as soon as all she needed was somebody to unlock the door for her. Then she takes charge, in the first one. Aren't you too short to be a stormtrooper? And as soon as she hears Obi-Wan Kenobi's name, she goes rushing out into the hallway past Luke and just takes charge of things. So she's the only one who wasn't very archetypical. She had a very interesting arc at the end where they really wound up softening her character, which makes sense because she was very hard and defensive person in the first one. Which, if you think about story-wise where she's been, it makes sense that she'd be so defensive and trying to prove herself in this rebel army. I don't really know what to expect from the movie other than it's not going to be as good as the original trilogy. And I hate to be that. I hate to be a wet blanket. I hate to be the guy who's like, oh, it's not going to be as good. But come on, guys. You can't do a sequel to let's say a sequel to Citizen Kane, directed by Sam Mendes, starring some of the best actors in the industry and some of the best screenwriters in the industry, and expect that it's going to live up to the original. Star Wars trilogy really is, as far as the sci-fi universe goes, it is the Citizen Kane of genre pictures. and these are sequels to that. And I think it's you can't live up to that standard. So they're going to have to judge on their own merits. Unfortunately, I think that movies really aren't all that creative anymore nowadays. So I don't think that they're going to push the boundaries beyond or introduce new things that we don't already expect out of Star Wars. I don't think they're going to be that experimental. Lucas tried to be a bit experimental with the prequel trilogy and it blew up in his face. So they're going to be sort of conservative. This is going to be very Star Warsy. So I talked a way bit too much. So my camera ran out of battery, so I'm picking up on my phone. If the video quality looks a little different, now you know why. So I think I was at characterization. I don't think that we're going to have much characterization. You know, these movies are essentially swashbuckling tales for kids. Nothing wrong with that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But will they be up to the par of the original trilogy? I think no. I think they're going to be fantastic, fun movies, and I think that when I'm lucky enough to have kids, I think they'll grow up on these movies and they will love them. And they'll see things in these movies that I can't because I'm too jaded from having grown up with the original trilogy. And in a way, they will enjoy these movies so much more than I ever can. I expect that there's going to be some things in it that will be rather irritating for old-time users of the Force. They'll be somewhat irritating for old-time Star Wars fans. There will be a lot of the wink wink nudge nudge references that they had throughout Into Darkness, Star Trek Into Darkness. There's going to be references, oh my god, and it's going to make me cringe, where you're going to hear the phrases, trust me. I love you, I know. I have a bad feeling about this. Do or do not, there is no try. Guarantee you Luke is going to say that to somebody. Do or do not, there is no try. You know, there's going to be a lot of quotes from the original trilogy that are just going to make people like me cringe, people who want something completely original, and it's going to make all the people who want those little touchstones to remind them of what movie they're watching. Like you can forget, right? To remind them of what movie they're watching. I don't know, I think it's unfortunate that we're going to have those pop culture references in these movies. I would like them to create new ones as opposed to relying so much on the past. But that's just me, I'm a purist in that sense. But I'll judge the movie for what it is. It'll be interesting to see this video for myself later on, after I've already watched the movie. I'm not one of those YouTubers who's like this rampaging nerd who just loves everything that comes out, you know. Every new Marvel movie that comes out, I go fucking nuts for it. I'm a bit critical of things. I'm a bit critical of modern movies. And I'm going to be critical of this movie. And I think I'm going to love joy. I'm going to enjoy the shit out of this movie. I'm going to fucking love it. I can't wait to see what trailers they show before it, too. But I honestly think that there are going to be elements of this movie that are going to make me cringe. I don't think I'm going to walk out of the movie angry. I think I'm going to be very happy with what I see, but I don't expect to walk away thinking that this is the absolute classic. This is another Star Wars movie that's coming out that's going to be better than the prequel trilogies, and it's probably going to be better than the Rebels TV show. But it will never ever live up to the original one. And it sounds like I've made up my mind about not allowing it to be as good as the original one. But what I'm trying to say here is that I'm going to judge this on its own merit. You can't go into this thing thinking it's going to be Empire. This is going to be something new. Don't compare this to Empire. It'll be its own thing. And whether that thing is as good as the other thing, you know, that'll be up to debate forever in the forums and on IMDb and all that stuff. That's basically it. We're going to have pop culture references. In summation, there will be pop culture references up the ass in this thing. By that I mean Star Wars references up the ass. I love you. I know. Trust me, I have a bad feeling about these things. Do or do not, there is no try. I guarantee you Luke is going to say that. There's going to be very few surprises for anybody who can do the math as far as the clues that we've been given out on the internet so far. And there's going to be really annoying camera tilting things that happen because J.J. Abrams can't help himself but do that. There's going to be modernistic cinematography is what I'm saying. Cinematography also with color correction. There's going to be a lot of blues, a lot of oranges, a lot of complementary colors. I really hope that they do the swipes, because that would be really weird if they didn't. I read that there is a text scroll at the beginning of the movie. There was speculation that they were going to get rid of that to try to tell a more modern story, or tell the story in a more modernistic way. But the movie comes out tomorrow. I'm going apeshit nuts here. I'm probably going to wind up thinking of more stuff to post, so I'll probably append this video at some point on another camera in another lighting situation. But that's it for now. So stay tuned for tomorrow. Tomorrow will be my reaction video to the movie. We'll see how wrong I am about things. We'll see how right I am about things. We'll see whether this movie sucks. It won't. We'll see whether this movie is fantastic. It probably will be. We'll see whether it's going to be as good as the original trilogy. Nah. But we're gonna see tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow. It's the day before the release of Star Wars Episode 7. Today is the 15th of December, Tuesday. That's here in Gothenburg. It's releasing, Gothenburg, Sweden, mind you. It's releasing here 10 a.m. We're gonna go to Kungen, and we're gonna go and see that movie, and we're gonna love the shit out of it, I think. And it's releasing tomorrow, December 16th at 10 a.m. Stay tuned tomorrow to watch whether I give it a big old thumbs up or a big old thumbs upper. Because, come on, what else? Am I going to hate the movie? No, I'm not going to hate the movie. But, spoiler alert, I might hate the movie. No, I'm just kidding. Tune in tomorrow to catch my reaction to the movie. I think it'll be interesting. I hope I don't meet you here tomorrow crying my eyes out that we've got another Phantom Menace on our hands. I really hope not. Thanks for watching, guys. Tune in tomorrow for the rest of the video. This is only part 1. This is the calm before the storm. And tomorrow comes the storm. The most beautiful, glorious geek storm. I'll see you then, guys. Bye. May the Force be with you.